He talks about supporting working people. It's this government that's cutting taxes for every single person in work, Mr. Speaker.
Well, imagine the shock for the Prime Minister when he watches this.
In fact, we looked at some of the figures and the combined effect of a 4% cut in national insurance and the threshold freezes between 2021 and this April would mean that people earning less than £25,000 are worse off.
And he'll fall off his chair when someone tells him that millions more people are now paying income tax since 2010. Don't just take my word for it.
You made millions pay more in income tax by changing the thresholds.
And more adults than ever are now paying higher rate tax. And if all that's not bad enough, even with his recent cut to national insurance, workers will still be clobbered with the highest tax burden for 70 years.
People's taxes are going up, Mr. Speaker.
Well, no arguments from me on that one.
We believe in a country where hard work is rewarded.
Well, again, imagine the shock for the Prime Minister when he finds out real wages in 2024 are forecast to be lower than they were in 2006. And never in living memory have families got so much poorer over a single parliament. A staggering 42% of people on universal credit are now in work. 68% of working age adults in poverty live in a household where at least one adult is in work. A staggering 71% of children growing up in poverty now live in a household where at least one person works. And relative poverty rates amongst working households increased from 13% in 1997 to 17.4% in 2021. So in that context, just listen to this again.
We believe in a country where hard work is rewarded. There has been a rise in extremists who are trying to hijack our democracy.
Well, again, the Prime Minister will fall off his chair when someone reminds him he was a member of the government that unlawfully suspended Parliament. And heaven forbid he remembers that not only is he the third Prime Minister since the last general election, not even a tiny fraction of a percent of the British public has had any say in the choice of our leadership. In fact, Sunak was initially rejected by his own party. But one thing the Prime Minister is correct on is that the UK is facing a democratic crisis as his government shuts down accountability in Parliament, through the courts and on the streets. According to International Human Rights Watch, the UK could soon make the list of countries that abuse rather than protects human rights, thanks to this government's outright onslaught on the rights of its own citizens. Just think about that.
Will the Prime Minister commit to leaving the ECHR, or at the very least have it in our manifesto to have a referendum and let Britain decide?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is absolutely right that we must do everything we can to secure our borders, ensure that those who come here illegally do not have the ability to stay. That's why our Rwanda scheme and legislation is so important. And what I've said repeatedly, and will happily say to her again, is that I will not let a foreign court block our ability to send people to Rwanda when the time comes.
Well, I'll happily point this out every week if I have to. The European Convention on Human Rights protects the right to a fair trial, freedom of assembly and expression, the right to participate in free elections, freedom of religion, freedom from discrimination, the right to privacy, freedom from torture and degrading treatment.
We clearly have a problem with human rights law in this country that is making it difficult for us to achieve our objectives.
Are we seriously going to trust a government like this one with our human rights? Remember that during the past 18 months, it's robbed millions of workers of their democratic right to strike, locked millions of people out of the electoral process, and stripped back our right to protest about it all.